So, happy Thursday morning, Jimmy.
Yeah, welcome everyone, and it's great to be back.
Right?
Fun-filled week in crazy crypto land that's happening.
Yeah, it's starting to warm up a little bit in the crypto space. It's like the second you start seeing, and I'm going to play the music here in a minute, but I always like to just have a little preamble for people that are coming in and watching it later on. The Twitter post about, oh my God, Bitcoin dropped by $1,000, and like everyone who's been around for more than 5 minutes are like, noob. I find them adorable, and I mean we're gonna have more of them. I think it was actually Adriana from Cypherglass, who actually was on the show early on for Chirpcast, who I'm a huge fan of. She's fantastic. She basically was like, I can't wait for the first 10,000 drop in Bitcoin so we can all stand back and go like this, because that's gonna happen. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but it's coming, right? Anyway, so we're gonna play the music. We got Ricardo Schiller on the show today. We got a bunch of news to go through. Let's rock and roll. I still think I gotta get a section of "I'm Not the Bubble" and put that. Just replace the music and just have that in there.
Yeah, we need to do a couple things. I've actually been meaning to talk to you about this because this is what I think. I went through in the post that we put out. We're up to about 7 or 8 casts now. So yeah, like you said, this is a thing. I think we're doing this.
Yeah, seems like it.
So
this is a thing that's happening.
So yeah, there's a couple of things that I think, yeah, we definitely need the "I'm Not the Bubble" on there. Maybe like a bull day, I'm not the bubble, and a bear day, I'm not the bubble. Even let's see how that goes. But the other thing was, yeah, we should get some music in the background or something somewhere on these shows and give it a
I think production wise, there's a ton of things that we can do, and that's always like, I always want to see, okay, like, is this a show that I'm gonna have fun doing over and over again? That's sort of like that's level 1, right? If it's level 1 and I keep coming back and I'm excited to come back, and Jimmy, you've been getting some amazing guests for us. We got an amazing guest coming on in a little while. So like that, like it's level 1 for sure. Like we hit that right now, figuring out some ways to improve and to get some more people on here. If you are watching, if you could give us a share, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, that would be fantastic. If we get up to 10 concurrent viewers today, I want to do some giveaways. I got some big crates from Uplift.art that I want to give away that are worth $50 a piece now, and maybe some Chirp coins, because now used to be Chirp coins you got 1,000 just for getting started. Now you get nothing because we had tons of spammers come in, because we're doing 6 reward tokens now all over the site. We got Palmo Boyd, Atmos, Telos, Shipple, Dust, and one I can't remember in this particular moment. But yeah, it's going crazy. So we had to take the initial coins that people get at the start. We actually took that down to 0. You got to come to our Telegram to get some, and you get it right for me, and then you get some to start out with. So many updates for Chirp. I just wanted to throw that out there. Those things are happening now. Channel owners are likely to going to be very happy with some of the things we got going on now, because we want to make them ballers in the space. So there you go, tiny little Chirp update.
Yeah, and it's not in our preview post. We're gonna try something a little bit different this week. We're gonna put some of the news out there early, so people can have a look. Just in case we don't get through it all in the show, but it's not in the preview post. But I was reading on Twitter actually a repost that you posted just before we jumped on from Kurt, and it was something about you said something about the fact that the mining of dust and the ability to be able to do that is kind of not really in tune with the way that Ethereum, Bitcoin, EOS, all of these networks were kind of set up. So it'll be an interesting experiment to see how Chirp does it with all of these tokens being used on one single platform, where the channel owners are essentially in control of their own channels. It's going to be like a mini internet in a way. a mini tokenized internet.
Right, like it seems like that, right? And initially we were thinking along the same lines as everybody else, right? Like we have Chirp, we're going to run on coins, and we've been, of course, it's just a centralized thing right now. We're going to put it on a blockchain later on. Hopefully, I'm going to get my way, and we're going to put it on many blockchains. We'll connect coin variants too, so that we're not constrained to just one. In that same kind of principle, right? But getting it to the point where we realized, wouldn't it be cool if we had Telos was the first one? Like you could earn Telos in the Telos channel. And then, watching what's going on with Dust, like Dust has probably 300 chat mines going on right now on Telegram, where, every single comment by every single user, one Dust is going to them, and one Dust is actually going to the person who owns that Telegram channel. And that's creating a bunch of nodes, people that have kind of vested interest in going and sort of spreading the Dustian gospel, as it were, right? So if we can do that, and I when I think about it, like once token projects understand that they can turn social engagement into a distribution angle for their token. Why wouldn't people want to be, projects want to be on that system? That, and I'm thinking about wrapped Bitcoin a lot. Having wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped Ethereum or whatever, having somebody like Ken Bosak who owns #Bitcoin on Chirp, he funds things all the time. People fund things through his podcast and through his sort of influencer jam he's got going on. So if they could throw a couple $100 worth of wrapped Bitcoin at his Chirp channel, right? And then he's going to get a little piece of that, as well as all the people that are hanging out in his channel. So, that it seems like there's like a virtuous cycle in there that, is great for us as a company, for Chirp, but it would also be great for literally everybody else. And that's what gets me the most excited, because that means it can scale.
Yeah, and we were talking about some platforms before, right? Like I use quite a few platforms on Ethereum as well, but I'm preferential to the ones on EOS. And I was thinking about this earlier today. Like it's kind of a cool community at times, but I hate Steam it, man, and
yeah.
And like just posting, like the way that you have to post, like no offense to anyone who is on there, the community is great, but just having to post, all the links and using the code boxes and things like that, it's a pain in the ass, right? I mean, Medium's okay, it's all right, but again, there's some like things that aren't necessarily optimal for the types of posts that I like to create. So I was playing around with Tribe, and they've done a bunch of updates in Tribe.
Okay.
Whereby you post Twitter links, or I think if you post Chirp links as well in your feed, it automatically shows the tweet, very similar to what Discussions app has done. And I think in my opinion, for longer content, those are two of the best platforms, not only on EOS, but just out there in space. But what I like about Chirp, and I had this conversation with Jack Wales of Discussions app a long time ago, but what I like about Chirp is it's got this more of a casual feel. And I think I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago, what I could honestly see happening in Chirp, and what I'd love to see some of the community members out there do. There's like tons of these NFTs coming out of the space. Like I would say 50% of our news every week has to do either with NFTs or gaming. And so, like, if you've got a gaming network of gaming people on Chirp, and you put them in that channel, and there's in-game assets or in-game tokens that you could spawn, like it's so much better than Discord. Discord's a pain in the ass to register for. Most of these like old non-blockchain gaming things are not going to be optimal for people who are coming into crypto gaming. It's going to be a completely different crowd, right? Nothing against those, old gamers, but we're trying to attract people into crypto gaming through projects like Wombat, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Adrian, and these, I think Chirp offers a really good avenue for that type of, interaction. Just that's my little mini shill out of the way there. But I think I could see it like blowing up in that sense, because you've got this easy to follow feed. It's not like, you're following 10 different feeds at once. It's just a really simply designed platform. So if you haven't used it yet, get in there and use it. And, if you don't know what to do, then find us a great news story and go and post it in EOSIO weekly. And we will throw it into the post below, which actually brings me to another really cool news story that I had this week. It's not really a news story, but I found a great post. It's down below in the post links of a guy who did a little post about Chirp, and he posted it on PublishOX, which is an Ethereum platform, and shouted it out to a bunch of groups. And he gave the ups and downs, and just check it out. It was a cool little post, and he explained why he liked using it, and it was cool. So yeah, thanks for throwing that love out there.
I think I saw that, and for some reason, because I've never used PublishOX, so I didn't know that it was an Ethereum based thing. And this is something I've been talking about with the Uplift team a lot. Actually, I got to sit in with the Uplift like kind of marketing and planning team. Like I thought it was just like Blue and maybe like a couple other people. No. They're not effing around at all. It's the plans that they have are completely ridiculous. Like I legitimately freaking lucked out being able to work with these guys. They're awesome. But we were sitting around. They're doing their analysis of sort of the market and the crypto space generally. They talk about the ETH boom. That's like sort of a cultural thing that's coming out. Ethereum's going to eat the world, whatever. Seth just commented his username, which I totally should have known. Quite frankly, is that Seth. Anyway, there's a huge amount of things that are going on. Wax has their new protocol coming out where there's going to kind of be a bridge between Ethereum and Wax chain, which I think is super smart for bringing people into the space and increasing value for anybody who's on Wax or Atomic Hub or what have you. Which is going to be it's going to be really good. So seeing more and more of those things coming along would be good. And it's only a matter of time before we have ERC20 tokens that are going to be available to be chat mined on Chirp. We just wanted to focus with the EOSIO because it's what we know. So the reason why Seth commented his name is because if you are on Chirp and you already have an account name, then I'm going to give you 100 coins if you comment your account name in the things here. So Seth will be getting 100 extra coins. Anybody else who does it now, that's fantastic. Of course, for new people, if you're not on Chirp yet, you're going to be asked to go to our Telegram to get the first coins that you're going to get. Make sure you do that. It's just t.me/ChirpTap to get that.
Yeah,
this is interesting.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. Actually, sorry.
No, it's good because this is kind of in line with what. Especially if it was automatic, right? What I was talking about with Ken Bosak, right? Who creates these sort of marketing kind of influencer attention kind of relationships with projects. But Seth says, what if you could just donate straight to the hash name channel on Chirp? I mean, well, you can tip coins to anyone on Chirp. That's easy. Just go to their personal Chirp profile and hit tip, and you can send them coins. So doing that with coins is really easy. But donating to the channel, I think would be really clutch. And what I'd like to see down the road, and this is I think probably a lot farther down the road, but have it be so that we have even like an atomic swap situation going on in the background. Right now, I can see Val he's our head dev guy, just like, Corey, shut up. just stop talking. He said he totally wouldn't. He's really awesome. But having some kind of atomic swap in the background or whatever, so that anybody could hop in and donate whatever kind of token they wanted to donate. Actually, it would make a lot more sense not to do that. So Seth comes in. He really loves Boyd, and he wants to come in and say, okay, I'm going to support the Lewis's #art channel that's full of NFTs or whatever, right? And just throw some Boyd at it, and boom! Suddenly, everyone in the art channel is getting a little bit of Boyd love every time they post. And I like that idea, Seth, to the point where
we could even have a basket of coins because there's going to be like EOSIO Weekly, for example. I mean, we're not really coin agnostic. We're not going to be tied to a specific coin. So and this is kind of in a way like what some other social projects in the space do. Like they will at different times give away different projects, and I think that's a really good idea. I like it. That's really cool.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah,
you're a genius. So Monohar said we should be bringing one-way bridge from ETH to EOS, not the other way around like Wax. The way that I think about that is that's like creating a connection on the internet that only goes one way. It, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? The cryptocurrency space, to me anyway, it feels like the internet of money, where the number of connections, the number of nodes, the number of systems that all interact with each other directly correlates with the gestalt, with the total value of the entire space. So if we created a one-way path, would some people use it? Sure. But it's going to be probably 10% as valuable as if we just leave the gate open and allow energy to flow in both directions. That's just my personal feeling about it. I'm sure there could be an argument for where I would be wrong about that. That's sort of like the high level principle way that I instantly react to that.
My take's a little bit different, similar, I think, but my take's a little bit different. So if you look at, we don't really know what's going to happen with this Wax DeFi thing. I mean, we've got a general idea. They've kind of come out and said what they're going to say, but if you look into what happened with Alien Worlds, that NFT based game,
yep.
That was quite interesting to me, because all of a sudden you had an allocation that was set forth for Wax tokens to be able to do purchases for the land in the game. Mm-hmm. And then you had an allocation that was set towards Ethereum. So I think, rather than, we've been putting a lot of focus recently on like bridging the gap, right? There's a lot of projects out there. Liquid Dapps is trying to solve that problem. They're one that is looking into it. There's a few other projects. There was the Saeed Jeffrey, I think, who is behind Blocks.io. He won some sort of award from Block One for creating the virtual machine that could run Ethereum contracts on EOS. These are great ideas, but I think the future is actually not going to be bridging one chain to another chain. I think the future is going to be dApps that bridge across multiple chains. That seems to make more sense to me. Not an inflow and outflow of capital, but a DeFi platform that's able to accept Ethereum, that's able to accept EOS, that's able to accept Bitcoin in its natural form, and not having to be trusted to a third-party contract that bridges it, right? Like I think that's going to be the future, especially when it comes to gaming. I mean, if you have a good game, you don't want to be locked, especially you don't want to lock yourself into a network that hates everyone else, because essentially that's what crypto has become. Everyone in Ethereum, Manahar is not right. Like, the ETH community is definitely, He's
not wrong, you mean? Yeah, because Manahar just said, I don't feel ETH community is open to look at other chains. And again, like, we're at the core place where the cultures of these things are very insular, right? Like, we have had to defend these things so hard that it makes small cultures very, very strong, but it also makes them very brittle, right? Nothing proves this more intently than a Bitcoin maximalist. I love you, long live Bitcoin, but it's the DOS to what's coming. Like, again, with my internet analogy, that would be like having multitudes of companies, projects, games, whatever, right, that would be attaching to Detroit's internet and to Texas's internet and to California's internet, and they would have to figure out how to attach to them all. That is, again, in my humble opinion, because it could totally work out differently, because it's just an analogy, it makes way more sense to me that people would figure out a backbone of the internet version of this, which I think is like dApps is kind of working on that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of other projects that are as well, some very successfully. And DeFi, I think, is a projection of where that could end up going. So that, because again, at the end of the day, whether it's the way you're describing, Jimmy, or the way I am, it has to disappear for the user, right? The end user can never know and never care. Do we think about TCP/IP anymore? No, we fucking don't, right? Like, it's just the thing that all of this, the magic, rectangle boxes work on.
Yeah, and yeah, so I don't think we're even close to being there yet, and that's a serious problem for me, because I got into the EOS space because it was awesome, it was lovely, and then people started hating on Telos a little bit, but that was like 2 years ago, and now people don't really hate on Telos anymore, but they hate on everything that's not EOS. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it depends on who, right? Because, like, I guess when I came into the space, I started, obviously, it started Schipple, the CPU crunch destroyed our tiny goofball little meme community, and of course I'm not a dev, so like that was the end of that, right? But then we start looking at links. That's actually how I met Kurt, because they built the first version of Chirp on there. And so like watching the diaspora to these other side chains that still worked for the average user was awesome for me. Right. And like I'm paying more attention to mainnet now because, you know, projects like Wombat, if you haven't seen our episode with Adrian from Wombat, go check it out. It's awesome. You know, there's reasons to be playing around on mainnet now. But to me, that was just great. Like the EOSIO software. That's why we're not an EOS show. We're an EOSIO show, right? That also is going to talk about whatever the heck we want to because this is kind of the way we are.
Well, I read a comment on Twitter today, and it was great. It was what was it? It was like EOS is the caviar to EOSIO, and it's not wrong. That's a perfect comment. It's a perfect way to look at it, right? Like the problem with EOS right now is everyone's complaining that Block One hasn't made the money. Well, sorry, but you're just dumb. If you're complaining that like Block One needs to spend more time, you know, informing the community, sure, I got your back 100%. They need to be informing the community. If you're complaining that Block One isn't communicating what they're doing for EOS in particular, 100%, I got your back. If we get to it, there's a whole great article that was written by Taylor Riker last week that detailed everything that Block One has done in EOS and in EOSIO over the last year. And I was even blown away. Like I'm not one of those harsh people, but there's a ton of stuff they've been building, a ton of stuff that they were doing. And I tweeted that out. A few other people tweeted it out. We put it on Twitter. Brendan Blummer tweeted it out. And right away, you had someone from the FUD machine. Like the FUD machine, they're like a bunch of minions or something. Like they shot out of potato guns, man. And like it's getting it's getting laughable how ignorant they've become. Because the rebuttal to Brendan Blummer was like, you know, I kind of get it. Make me money, you fool. Like you're holding on to my BTC, and now you're talking about, you know, mining BTC and Ethereum, which Block One is. And as you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, that's pretty freaking smart hockey. I mean, you know, both of these things are going to go up, right?
Did you just say smart hockey?
Yeah, I did say smart hockey.
That's a new thing that we say on weekly update now. Smart hockey, that's staying. Two expat Canadians out in the world.
Yeah.
Smart hockey. Hashtag smart hockey. Anyone using that on the internet, you better tag me because I'm going to give you something, NFTs or Chirp coins or a million shipple. I don't know. Smart hockey's just too good. I like it. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Back to this ignorant comment. It just blew me away because this guy was like, you know, EOSIO price is falling, and you did nothing for EOSIO price, and EOSIO needs, you know, more money, and you just scammer, BTC scammer. And it's like, dude, like if you're gonna FUD them, at least realize that EOSIO isn't even a chain. There isn't even a value to EOSIO. Like you can't even buy EOSIO coin on the market. Like if you're gonna FUD, like at least, you know, get an argument that makes you look like, not like an idiot. You know what I mean? But the problem.
Okay, speaking of which, Seth is super fast. Managed to post this in the Chirp Telegram, which I'm really, really glad I just happened to have open, and that's just going to be a thing. If you want to send us anything to the show, that's a good place to do it. You can go to t.me/chirpdap if you're not part of that Telegram yet. So I'm just going to share my screen over here. Application window. So why your ex won't text you back and how to make them. I think this might be the tweet we were talking about. Calm Toss Crypto. I think Jimmy, you referenced this because you're still a fan, which is great. I'm 90% sure Brendan Blummer has me muted on Twitter. If Brendan is willing to share what I said that bothered him, I'd be happy to address it and also apologize if I overstepped my bounds or said something inappropriate. Again, rected like a boss. Why your ex won't text you back and how to make them.
Yeah, that was a different one than I was talking about.
Either way, it's good.
I like it as well, but yeah. But no, I understand, and it's funny because, like, you know, I have a lot of friends in this space that I'm a little bit, you know, probably I'm on the more positive side of things than most of them, right? Like this is called EOSIO, but you know, I'm still pretty pro Block One. I mean, I've managed to run a couple failed businesses, so I kind of know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, failure should be allowed, right? I mean, we're not investing in blue chip stocks, right? Like if you're buying EOS, it's a startup, right? Yeah. 1 out of 200 startups succeed or some ridiculous number, and people need to own that. That's one of the things that really drives me nuts. Like especially again, like you said, like owning, being part of projects, being part of startups. failure is part of it. Like iterating is part of it, and it's not an easy thing. But when you get $4 billion worth of cryptocurrency just thrown at your face, and then you disappear for a couple of years, you know, to your point, like communication would have gone a long way.
And I'm not like I'm not defending those things. Like there should have been at least $1 billion worth of, you know, VC funding set up for projects that are doing things, for solid, you know, projects that are doing things. Like
on mainnet is not a ridiculous argument to have expected that. In my opinion, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I don't disagree with that. And so this thing that came out, like the article that's that Taylor Riker wrote, he went through some of the projects that got the funding, and you can see from that like how well those projects have done. Like Prospectors was one of them, one of my favorite, you know, projects in the space. You know, has a wax world as well. The Blancos, which came out recently, which they're closing their beta, by the way. All of those founder packs will disappear on, I believe, the 18th of December, and they'll be gone for good. So if you haven't got your founders packs, go get them. If you're like me and you're on a Mac, you won't be able to use them, but you'll still have them. And they're introducing new heroes, and there's some pretty cool ones. They got a lumberjack, so that's exciting. He almost looks like me. Anyway, back to those projects that are running on EOS that had good support from Block One. They're doing amazing things. And so I'm not saying that, you know, Block One is perfect. I think they've made a lot of mistakes. But what I'm saying is that, like, I'm not annoyed at projects being critical of Block One not helping them. I'm more annoyed at investors in the ICO being critical of Block One because if they would have kept their Ether, they would have already been rich. Well, you're not doing anything. If you're not building, you shouldn't be angry at Block One because they haven't made you $1 million, right? If you're building and you need funding, sure, be angry at Block One. I'm all for that, right? Like, get frustrated. But as like an investor that wouldn't even be allowed to invest in the real world because they can't even spell, like, so I'm just saying. Like,
well, and there's criticism, and Monohar's right. Like B1 funded Ethereum projects instead of EOSIO projects, right?
100%
like that,
wrong. That was horrible. I'm 100%.
Right. And again, like we'll see. This is rampant speculation. We got to close up whatever business we have over the next couple minutes because we got Ricardo Schiller from Blockbase coming in. But I like that we're on this like time crunch now too, because I'm sure we could yak about this nonsense for another 3 hours straight. I'm wondering what they're going to do when, like, at the peak of this next cycle, right? Because they're not going to have 4 billion in Bitcoin; they might have 40.
Yeah.
Right. Then what? Right. Then, you know, maybe it'll rain, or maybe they'll just be like, "We got $40 billion. Go fuck yourself." Right. We don't know. Right. We have no idea. But it'll be interesting to see how they do it. So again,
you know what I'd love? I'd love for them just to like ride this out for another 6 months, and then shake all of the complainers out. All the complainers say, "Fuck it," you know. They sell all of their EOS. There's only like 10 of us left, and they're just like, "Yeah, we're gonna give everyone like a half a Bitcoin." It's
like, right? The top 1,000 holders of EOS just get like, "Here's a Bitcoin. What's up?
Here's 0.01. Here's." What? You're not building anything? Yeah, it's not going to happen. But 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. Like it was a little bit irresponsible to not fund that. And there's a lot of great projects that deserve funding. Boyd, you know, is one of them. Vigor is one of them. Some of our favorite projects in space.
Cough. Chirp. Cough.
Chirp was probably one of them. Yes. Although Chirp wasn't on EOS at that time, so you know.
Well, no, and honestly, like we will plug into more EOSIO token projects and promote the shit out of them for the low cost of about 20 or 30 Bitcoin. For that stuff we're gonna do anyway.
Another one that I really think deserved funding from Block One was Blockbase, and they didn't get it. They didn't get the funding from Block One, but they got funding from some other entities, and they have been just killing it. They've been doing an awesome job, and that's where Ricardo comes in. I think he's probably on the line.
He's on his way. I just sent him the link.
It would have been.
I told him to hop on in 5 minutes, right? Just to be like, pop, just have him come in. I'm getting some Chirp coins to. Oh, hey, Madahurama, you've never had coins before, so join the Telegram at Chirp. Say hello to me there. I'm just gonna give you the tokens that I would ordinarily give you from there. So you're getting 150. So thanks for hanging out on the show, and welcome to Chirp. Make sure. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, I thought you were finished. I was going to say, while we wait, European Union, that's who they got funding for. Thank you, Seth. While we wait, maybe we should give an update about what's going on with Uplift Art. I know you have a couple.
We could do that, but Ricardo is here now.
Okay, let's not do that.
Denied. Ricardo Schiller, how's it going, man?
Good morning, Ricardo.
I'm fine. And you? How are you?
Good. So I was already excited to have you on, and then I found out that you're working with Uplift and some of the other projects they have going on, and I was like, man, I feel like I already know this guy, and we haven't met. So thank you so much for coming on. Jimmy's been super stoked to have you on. I keep hearing about Blockbase all over the frickin' place. Maybe if you could give a quick introduction to yourself and to what you're working on.
Sure, and nice to meet you by the way. And I love your voice. I would love to have your voice. I would love to be a good singer since a kid, but my voice is horrible. Like when I sing, everyone vomits.
That's an image right there.
That's actually the only reason I'm doing this show. I'm hoping that if I do this show long enough, his voice will like rub off onto me.
Man, it's getting kinky in here for a Thursday morning.
Yeah. So about Blockbase, the story behind Blockbase. So yeah, Blockbase kind of started about 3 years ago, like 2017, and this was after the craziness of the smart contracts in 2016. With Ethereum, like everyone was looking into smart contracts. Smart contracts were the new kid on the block. And at that time, I was kind of looking at smart contracts, and I thought that a good alternative that would also make sense to exist on blockchain would just be the storage of data. So smart contracts make total sense, but they are kind of more heavy to run. You have to, every node has to execute the same code and so on. So you've got all of those restrictions. And I thought that it would kind of make sense to have the storage of data on blockchain too. So that was the beginning of the idea of Blockbase. But it has a lot of stuff related to it. So in which type of situations does it make sense to store like any type of data on a blockchain? And if you want to store data on a blockchain, does it need to have encryption? Do you need to encrypt it? So those are the questions we were posing at that time. And yeah, then the story goes on and on and on. So the first thing we did was do a big deep dive into the security aspect of data in general, how it works today, like the standard for data security. And basically it's a mess, right? So you've got, the problem is securing data is a big problem. So data is not secure like by default. So you have these layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of different protocols and technologies and so on, all trying to secure the data, and it just doesn't work. It fails. It fails. It fails in a big explosion. So you've got trillions of data of cost and problems with data, like data that's stolen, that's covertly changed, that's lost, and so on. And you've got a lot of problems related to data storage, and it just doesn't work. And it relies at the core of data storage itself. And that's where Blockbase focused. Like the concept of Blockbase was born 3 years ago. And I'll stop here because I could keep on talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, for an hour. No, it's always good to hear about how things get started, because like it can you talk a little bit about, like, I'm hearing snippets about how you're working with I think like game projects to kind of help them move forward? Like, aren't you guys working with Boyd to do their weird game? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
their weird game.
They're weird. I haven't got into it yet. But again, weird is like nerd to me. It is a term of endearment. Just let's throw that out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I can answer that quickly or with a very, very long answer. It depends on how to explain that.
We technically we're going to be an hour, but I don't give a shit. We could hang out all morning if it's interesting.
Okay. So the main reason, like giving you a short answer. So the main reason that Boyd is working with us is they want to do this massive, innovative game, and they want to use blockchain tech for that. Now, if you want to do that with a traditional blockchain chain like EOS chain or an EOSIO chain, you will have problems with costs very quickly. That's the first thing. And the second thing is there are no privacy-related data that you can, like privacy tooling, so you can encrypt the data that's stored there. So any data that you put on blockchain currently, it's completely open, so everyone can read it.
Right.
You can try to encrypt it, but if you encrypt it, you'll have problems searching it because there's no tooling to search the data quickly. So a completely encrypted data is non-searchable. So there's a big problem there. That's why they want to leverage Blockbase technology, because it's a way to build a blockchain-backed game with a lot of data stored on it, where you have proof of everything that happened in the game, because it's stored in a blockchain-like fashion, where you have these blocks coming on and you cannot change the history and so on, all the good things from blockchain. You have that. Furthermore, all the blocks that are produced on the Blockbase sidechain, they will be running. And here we're talking about another concept called sidechains. All the blocks are pegged to the EOS main chain, so they like inherit the security of the EOS chain, because you've got the block headers published there, and they get all of that at a much reduced cost than they would have if they used a regular EOSIO chain. So that's the main reason.
So just two things, because I don't think that you mentioned this, and some people might not know this. So Blockbase basically, it's an economy in itself, right? So you have service providers and you have service users, right? So the service providers and the service users, can you kind of explain how that network kind of works? Because I think that is kind of important. It's not like putting something on a public blockchain where the service provider is the VP, right? It's a little bit of a different system. It's kind of like an internal economy in a way in itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. So so let me try to answer that. So at the heart of computer security, you've got three things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Integrity is given by blockchain. That means that the data you put there, you cannot change it by whim. I cannot change the Bitcoins you own just because I want it, right? Blockchain gives you that. Now, blockchain isn't very good at availability. Availability means that you want to make it grow to any type of like throughput you want. You don't have that with blockchain. It gets to a bottleneck, right? So, and here stems the answer to your question. So you're talking about the providers. So what are the providers? The providers is software that is being run by teams around the world. Currently, we've got about 23 providers in our network, and they run our code. And these providers, they build something that is called sidechains. And a sidechain is a blockchain, a traditional blockchain, that has all the block headers published on the main chain. So for Blockbase to exist, there has to be a main chain. Currently, it's EOS, but we could like hover around different main chains. You could have a Blockbase for EOS, a Blockbase for Telos, for Wax, whatever. Even for different technologies, not EOSIO related, because we just need like it needs to have smart contracts there. So you've got the providers, and they are hovering around this main chain, and they are producing side chains. And for whom are they producing these side chains? It's for the requesters, as you were saying. So the thing is, let's say you want to build a dApp on a blockchain. Before having something like Blockbase, you would have to store your data on a specific blockchain. And you would have to default to its throughput, to its security, to its cost, and all of that, right? On Blockbase, you can issue a sidechain for you, for your project. And that sidechain can have different requirements. It can have a bigger throughput, it can have bigger or smaller blocks, it can have more providers or less providers. You can configure all of that. And depending on the configuration you make, it will cost you more or cost you less. Because what the providers will do is they will look at the configuration you set for your sidechain, and they will say, okay, how much does it cost for me to participate on this sidechain? How much is the requester willing to pay for that? And if the payment is above the cost of storing it, he will participate. If it's below, he won't. So that's the concept of the relationship between providers and requesters there.
Yeah. So what I like about that most is so when I first, maybe Corey it's the same, but when I first got into crypto, you know, when anyone maybe first gets into crypto, I'm not sure, because we're not like, you know, we're not developers, we're not tech people, so we get really excited because all of a sudden, you know, you're gonna have movies on the blockchain, then you're gonna have like, you know, Twitter on the blockchain, then you're gonna have like all these things on the blockchain, and then like after like about 6 months or after a really long bear market where you get completely wrecked, I'm not really sure, maybe parts of both, you look at it and you're like, why the hell do you need that on the blockchain? There is absolutely no reason for that to be on a blockchain, especially in a lot of cases, a blockchain as powerful as EOS, right? EOS block times are what? They're four how long?
I think it's half a second or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So, sorry, yeah. So even faster than I thought. I was going to say like 4 seconds, but yeah. So half a second. EOS block times are half a second, right? Ethereum block times are, you know, quite a bit longer, but
a couple weeks.
There's there's some vulnerabilities in there because of, you know, with DeFi and things like that, and you know, vulnerabilities also create opportunities. So, you know, pick your poison. But anyway, what I like about the sidechain idea is from my understanding with the providers that Blockbase provides, you could say, okay, well, we really only need it pushed to the main chain once every, you know, 3 hours or once every 5 hours. Like we can pay less to have it, you know, have this information pushed to the main chain because, you know, we're just collecting emails for our project, and we're encrypting them, and then we're going to send them off. Like that, I'm sure that's not even really a use case for Blockbase. But anyway, you know what I'm saying, right? Like you can kind of designate the amount of time that you can push that, you know, information, so everything doesn't have to run on the main chain. And you and I had this conversation earlier. Like there's a difference between a side chain. The nomenclature in EOS sucks, honestly, because there's a difference between a side chain. There's a like difference between the main net. Like I don't even know what to call EOS anymore. Like I just, you know, I just decided, screw it. I'm just going to call it the beacon chain because that's what they're using for Ethereum, and that seems to work, you know. So let's just call it the beacon chain. Maybe the price will go up. You know, I don't know. but leading into all of this, what I wanted to ask you then is, you look at some of these other blockchains that are not EOSIO related, and they talk about things like sharding. So is the side chains of Blockbase in a sense, is that kind of like sharding? Like it's taking traffic off of the main chain to be able to do it, but it's also adding the value of being encrypted. And then it's pushing it back to the main chain, and it's essentially optimizing the main chain. The reason I'm thinking about this is like, could something like from my idea, like it's not an issue anymore, but EOS essentially came to a standstill with the whole EOS thing when that dropped. You know, when the resource model was quite figured out yet. And like from my understanding, something like this couldn't happen on a block-based network because it would just take out one side chain, and all of the other side chains wouldn't be affected by this. It wouldn't take out the main chain. Does that kind of make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, everything you said is completely correct. And by the way, Jimmy, I can't see you on my I just see some lights. I can't see your face. I don't know why.
Can you see me, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I can't. There's a problem on my side. Okay.
No,
I just see like a corner of the image, but no problem.
Maybe no one's been able to see me. Maybe that's why this show's so successful.
I think what I'm really sad about today, Jimmy, is that your hair is not anywhere near crazy enough. It's too like in normal, because ordinarily he shows up and it's like, and I'm a huge fan. And it would probably block the light that is just to the left of the back.
Yeah, maybe let me turn it and see. Does that work?
Should I refresh the page, or is it that too
no,
dangerous?
I think it's okay.
Just seeing your ceiling, like the ceiling.
All right.
I think it's zoomed in, but it seems to be just for me. So I don't know. Should I refresh the page?
I mean, if you really want to see Jimmy, you could. We could vamp till you get back.
Yeah, let's vamp. I'll tell a story about you while you're gone.
No, I'll refresh. I'll refresh. Give me one second.
All right.
So I love Ricardo. Ricardo's awesome. I met Ricardo in the early days of Uplift Nation, and then we decided to do something together. We decided to plan something together. And it was quite cool because I'm telling a story. Just hold it for a sec. So it was quite cool because we decided that we were going to do this thing together, and we're both kind of busy people, and by that I mean he's busy and I live on the opposite side of the world. So we decided we were going to do this thing together, and we did this thing, and we met every week. We met, and it was funny because Ricardo would get up and he would eat breakfast. And I would get home from work, and so he'd be eating like eggs, and I'd be eating like ribs, and we'd be sitting on the computer just talking about like these ideas that we had, and we did this for like a weekly basis, and it became a kind of a running joke in my house that like, I had a weekly date with Ricardo because I never spent any time with like anyone or any of my friends except for him. So I do understand why you feel the necessity to see me. I mean, we have a bond.
Yeah, we do, Jimmy.
And that was a long walk to get to we have a bond.
It was about 2 months of weekly meetings.
It was great. It was awesome.
Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah.
It was kind of like this with me and you, Corey, except it was a little bit like the time was a little bit better because, it wasn't like early morning, late evening. It was like early morning, late afternoon. So it's kind of
fair enough.
But yeah, so returning to, you asked many questions there. I'll try to remember everything you touched. So you're talking about sharding. So actually, Blockbase isn't sharding. What it does. So what does it store on this sidechain that's issued for you? So the best analogy to do that, to not go directly into like the database technology and how it works, is to use an Excel file as an example. So an Excel is a very good analogy to a database. Each sheet on the Excel is like a table on the database, and you can create many sheets, and then you can put data there. And what gets stored on Blockbase is all the operations to create the sheet, create the Excel file, create all the sheets, name them, add the records, update the records, delete the records. So you've got the whole history of everything that happened to that sheet. And it's the same thing that happens to a database. So database creation, table creation, column creation, definition of the whole structure of all the tables that live on the database, and then all the inserts, updates, and deletes. So the cool thing of that is that if I give you like my sidechain, you can replay all the operations from Genesis block until the current block, and you have to execute those operations on a traditional database, because it's like a record was inserted in this table, an update was made to this record, this record here was deleted, this new table here was created. If you run all those operations on a traditional database, you end up with the current state of the database. That's like in short what you store on a sidechain. And the cool thing about that is if you have like just a traditional database or just an Excel file, you change a record and the previous value disappeared forever, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go there just before an audit and you can make it look pretty, right? You can change everything, make it look cool. You can make a parking ticket disappear. And I've seen that happen on like a company I worked for like 15 or 17 years ago as an intern. They had a database for all traffic tickets in Lisbon. And every time an employee got a ticket, it just got deleted from the database.
Wow. Yeah. That's some high level hacker stuff right there. I mean, it's not, and this is something as a total sort of novice or whatever, right? I didn't think too much about this until we really started to get into Chirp and whether or not we were going to launch coins on a blockchain and then which one and all these different conversations. And what we finally landed on is like, well, fuck it, let's just keep it internal for now. We don't have to make this decision now. We could just keep it internal. And it led to discussions about what we want to put on the blockchain. And the fact that a principle for our company for this project is just we're not going to put it on the blockchain unless we absolutely have to. Yeah. Right. And and that changed the entire conversation. Now, there's a lot of people in the space that you're like, oh man, you got to put everything on chain. No, you don't. Right? Like you really don't. And there's arguments for why different posts and different things like that need to be on chain. And we're going to be looking at that going forward. But our bet is that most users don't care. And the users that we specifically want to go after, which are non-crypto necessarily users anyway, they definitely won't care. They won't have any knowledge of that. But we'll continuously maintain this ability to be open to, okay, if we find a use case where being on chain is really, really important, then we're going to do that.
It actually cracks me up, like what you said about that, because it's like having worked for social projects in the blockchain space, a lot of people say that, and everyone hates Facebook because if you delete something on Facebook, like it's not gone. They have it forever, and everyone's pissed off about the fact that like it's still on chain. That one night drunken stupor type of thing that you happen to get a picture of your friend and it's still on chain, but these same people are like, no, everything's got to be on blockchain. I mean, with Blockbase, at least it's encrypted and no one can read it. It's perfect.
Yeah. So the question of deciding what stays on a traditional database or what stays on a blockchain, it's currently it's kind of an internal decision, and it's true that most users don't care where it's being stored. But in the future, our bet is that it will come from the governments. Like the governments will start to push first for very critical type of data, like health related data, like accounting data, like citizen data. First, we'll start to push that to the blockchain. And then...
Sorry to interrupt, Ricardo. Isn't Estonia basically doing that all over the place and it's working like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Estonia has blockchain for a lot of years now. I think they were working with the concept of some type of blockchain even before Bitcoin existed. At least they talk about that. I don't know to which extent it's true or not, because it kind of got invented with the Bitcoin protocol. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they talk about that a lot. And they've got a lot of stuff on chain, Estonia. They're a really interesting case study. And many governments are moving in that direction. They are studying how they can apply the blockchain technologies locally. Here in Portugal too, like the Department of Health is considering that. So eventually, companies will have to store some type of data on the blockchain. And it will probably be related to accounting and stuff like that, like stuff that they have to make sure there's no corruption and so on.
Yep.
Because with current accounting systems, you can just change the values. Like I've had audits on my department that I run, and it's just audits to make sure that you are up to standards with a certain type of quality to get the certification, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at Excel sheets. I can make them pretty the night before. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That's not proper certification. It's zero. Like you can build the Excel sheet the night before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't. So it doesn't mean there's no integrity in that data that you can
zero,
trust, right?
It's zero integrity, zero. And even if it's in a database, the same thing. You can change it.
Yeah,
the night before, and people do it. And so, and the larger the business, the larger the money, the larger the corruption, the more they do it. So it makes sense to eventually start storing data on blockchain. The problem there stems with scalability of the blockchain and with like privacy of the data that you put there. Because if you put data there and everyone in the world can see it, it might be a problem. So especially in international affairs. So let's say you're storing citizen data on a blockchain, you probably don't want, this is in the US, you probably don't want Russia to look at that every day and to do statistics and stuff like that. So you probably want to encrypt it. So I personally see a big use case for this in the future. And it will come from top down, but currently they are still
they still barely agreed. I think they still don't really understand it. So, some of them are starting to, but I think you bring up a really interesting point. And then of course Blockbase will be sitting there able to solve the scalability and encryption problems for government. So basically we're talking to the dude who's going to be running the world in about 10 years. So that's cool.
Not only governments. I mean, just thinking about, what you said early on is like medical, like how medical is a pain in the ass. It honestly is. Like if you move, you go to a hospital, you've got to like call them. You've got to get your like records sent over to your new city or your new ward or your new hospital, and it's like, it's a big hassle, right? Like, anything to do with, I think you mentioned countries, but even like governments or cities or taxes or any of this stuff could technically all be stored on the blockchain, which would make it, simple. But yeah, I think it's pretty amazing what Blockbase has done, and it being on EOS is cool too, right? Because there's not that many blockchains that have a high throughput as it is. I know you love the tech. We had this conversation before about the EOSIO technology, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how the authorities that be adopt this. And a friend of mine actually once said, it's kind of funny because you mentioned, Russia and America. It's like, someday, it's possible that maybe what you're collaborating on with Boyd someday could be the decider of all international, issues, because they'll just log onto this Boyd game and they'll settle on the blockchain, who gets to take what resources from what country. Right?
Who's got the cooler NFT sticker? And wars are now over.
It's looking to be like a strategy game.
Let's move into that. I dig it.
We thought it was going to go the route of drones, but no, it's going the route of Blockbase.
Yeah, NFTs, not bombs. That's another one. Hashtag NFTs, not bombs. Makes almost no sense unless you've seen this episode. Tweet that out and tag me. I got not only some coins, but I'll shower some NFT love on that for sure. Oh man. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, go ahead.
You kind of touched on in a very funny way. You touched on adoption. So blockchain adoption is something that I think it's very slow currently, but I think it will get faster and faster. I think we're still miles away from that.
Yeah.
But when it happens, it will be like very quickly. So for example, the Ethereum, for example, what projects are currently working in Ethereum? And it's got a lot of developers and stuff like that. It's mostly DeFi stuff. And why DeFi? Because it's the only thing that works there. Because you have these huge fees to pay. And if you're like gambling, then it kind of makes sense. If you want to make 10x on the money, perhaps you're willing to pay $40 a fee to run a transaction there. I don't see currently with Ethereum technology like mainstream adoption there, because you can't do anything with it without completely paying a lot of money there.
Mm-hmm.
On EOS, you've got like a huge scalability factor over Ethereum. So you can run like 4,000 transactions per second maximum currently, which is very, very good. But even so, that's nothing compared to the throughput of what happens in the world per second. It's nothing, right? So you need to add scalability to that. And one way is to do it through sidechains. So you've got all these sidechains being built and pegged to a main chain that has all the security to it. And Blockbase is like a level one increase. So you've got sidechains to a main chain. One thing we've been thinking about having in the future is having sidechains to the sidechains, like a network of sidechains. And it kind of makes sense, right? It kind of makes sense because then you can really scale as much as you want.
Yep.
I think that Polkadot has a scalability of 1, 2. It's a main chain, and then you've got these parachains. I think that Cosmos DB has like more of this concept of sidechains to sidechains to sidechains. But I might be wrong. I haven't studied in depth, but that's the feeling I get to it. And I think that's the path forward. And Larimer has talked about that many times. So to having like chains pegging their block headers to another chain. So that's like it's the concept of a sidechain, at least as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that is probably required to have to be in parallel to adoption. Now, adoption is a tricky thing because currently it's slow. It's what it is, right? Most is speculation. People are not talking about how blockchain can be used to solve this and that. Not much. Mostly we are on the end of the cycle of Bitcoin. It's going to go up and we're going to make a lot of money. And which coin are you buying? And what's your leverage and so on. And it's cool. We can make a lot of money if it actually works. And I'm definitely looking for that. But there's more to blockchain than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is still it's still miles ahead from us.
Despite what anyone might believe, like I'm not necessarily an EOS maximalist. I like EOS a lot. I think it's great, but I don't have issues with other blockchains, and I think maximalists have issues with other blockchains. But I think you make a really good point. I mean, Ethereum really doesn't do anything for the world that the traditional legacy system does at this point, other than put it on the blockchain, right? Like you're saying, like EOS DeFi, you have the ability for people to invest $1 or $2, which in some countries is a really big amount of money, and play the game, But in Ethereum, it's just not possible unless you're living in a first world rich nation. There's no possible way that you can even think about playing the game on any of these Ethereum DeFi projects at present with the scalability, transactional costs, and then add into that the wait times and the mindset of the ingenious developer people that are able to write these bots and take advantage of people who aren't running on bots. Then it's a shitstorm in a way. Like, it's great that people are making money, but it's a speculator's paradise. It's not a change for the future that's going to enable and empower people. And I think that's what blockchain should be. And I know there's a lot of people that would say, screw other people. I just want to make money. And if that's your take, in my personal opinion, then that's cool. If you just want to screw other people and make a lot of money, then that's cool. But that's no different from the old world system. And I'd like to see a world that's empowered by blockchain, not a world that, is like, I was here first, so I get more money. I want to see a world where people get on blockchain for the right reasons. They do things with blockchain. They improve their lives. They're able to, maximize their business. They're able to do something good that's beneficial for themselves without harming other people. And I mean, if you're not smart enough to do that, just be like me and write about it. You don't have to FUD the system, like that's kind of what I want to see. So I see like your kind of point, and it's going to be a really powerful transition. It's going to be a really quick change. And I think this is where, projects like yours, especially, and, EOS or any EOS chain in particular are going to shine, because once the masses come in and scalability becomes an issue, like that's going to be able to be ported to the rest of the world. I mean, we think about, computers and programming and stuff like that. I mean, most young people these days don't even know how to turn on a computer. And I think that's what blockchain is going to need to be. You're not going to have to go onto a website and download a wallet from some place after you've checked to verify that it's actually a wallet that doesn't come from some nefarious source, and then double check the nefarious source to make sure that you haven't been hacked, and then remember a 25-point Ethereum password, and then figure out how to sign into Etherscan, and then have to figure out how to port that over to MetaMask. Like, I'm not surprised that these people haven't ported over to EOS. They spent a long time learning how to do what they want to do. They don't want to learn how to, use EOS. It sounds like it's difficult, but it's really fucking easy. That's my little rant for that. But yeah, I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And there is a BBT channel on Chirp that people can come and interact with you. I saw you got that set up. So
yeah, for sure.
And the last question that I kind of want to ask you as well was, if people want to learn more, they can go to your website, but also if people are interested in becoming providers, or if they're interested in using your side chains, how can they go about learning about that?
Yeah, so the code is open source. It's on GitHub. Just search for Blockbase on GitHub, and it's one of the first link. There are other projects called Blockbase, but you'll find it out. Download the code, follow the instructions. They are a little lengthy, but easy to follow. And you'll very quickly spin up a provider node or a requester node. You can have both. So when you run the code, you can run it as a provider or a requester or both. You can even be a provider for your own sidechain request. So it's kind of cool. It's like a network.
You could spin up a provider node. I don't know if it's called a node. You could spin up a provider chain, and then other people could use it, and it could almost act as a form of passive income for your company as well, right?
Yeah. So you spin up the node, and you have to configure what is the ratio between the cost of running a specific sidechain to the payment that you're accepting for that. So it's like a threshold. If it's above this ratio of cost of running it to the payment you receive, you'll start a sidechain. So you do that, you run the node, you put those rules there, and it just listens for sidechain requests. And if a sidechain request appears, it tries to participate on that sidechain. It might not participate because, let's say there are 23 providers as they are currently, and you issue a sidechain request for 3 providers, and you're willing to pay a good amount of BBT. What will happen is all providers will try to participate. But there's an interesting rule, is that when you provide as a provider, when you participate in a sidechain as a provider, you stake BBT, like you're putting skin in the game. And that stake is an amount of BBT you will lose if you fail to provide the service for the requester. And the ones who stake more BBT have a higher probability of being chosen. It's like the selection of the providers that applied to participate on a sidechain is random, but it favors the ones that actually put more BBT as stake, which they will lose if they fail to provide. That was a tangent to your question, but actually it's another interesting thing about Blockbase is that it promotes skin in the game.
Did you just let it in or something?
Yeah, it's the cat. My cat is always entering and exiting and entering and exiting. He just wants to mess with me the whole day.
There was a good meme I saw the other day on the internet. It was like preparing your house for a Zoom call, and they had the cat taped to the.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard the final killer blow to flat earthers is that the world can't be flat, because if it was, cats would have knocked everything off the edge already.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. All right, so Blockbase. I'm just getting like a full-on like scalability. The second governments figure out and big companies figure out they have to use a blockchain to get their shit straight. You're going to be there to be like, well, it's going to be expensive, or you can just pay us a smaller amount, and then they will.
It's not us. It's not us. It's anyone can participate. This is anything but centralized. So it's not us. We are not running the Blockbase network.
See, thank you. I didn't get that. So, and I guess that's what you're talking about as far as like anyone can access it and then just get I guess like a proof of stake more or less, right? With the BBT token.
Yeah, so you could download the code right now, spin up a node, and you would be a provider in the network. And definitely the Blockbase development team couldn't stop you in any sense. So it's completely decentralized. We get no commission from any sidechain running. We consider that, but they could just fork the network eventually, so that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's the model for you guys then? So you built this thing. Is that something you want to talk about, like, as far as like the business model about how you guys want to scale your position in it?
So the business model of AGAP2, the consulting company where this was developed, is to sell consulting services on top of Blockbase. So I work at AGAP2 IT. It's a Portuguese consulting company, a big consulting company that has consulting services for a lot of different stuff. And I'm the head of R&D there, so I can play with whatever I want, I guess. And I've messed with a lot of different technologies in the past, and then I stumbled into blockchain, fell in love, and the rest is history. So we've built Blockbase, and then the question is, what is the business model that we can put on top of this? And for AGAP2 IT, the business model is to sell consulting services on top of that. So let's say you want to request a sidechain for you to store your data. Perhaps you want to. Why are you doing that in the first place? Probably you want to develop something. So we've got consulting services for that. We understand very, very well how Blockbase works. So perhaps you want to work with us to build that. So that's the business model behind it. But from an infrastructure standpoint, from a network standpoint, we could all disappear and it will be there, and everyone could run as a requester and as a provider, and nothing would stop anyone doing that. So it's completely decentralized. So you could run a sidechain for you and provide it for you. Like Jimmy could be our provider, and you could do a sidechain between yourselves, and we couldn't stop that.
What would be if we did it as like a lark or whatever, right? Like Chirpcast weekly updates going to start a Blockbase sidechain. Like what is the most basic hello world thing that we could do to kind of show off what you guys are doing and how decentralized it is and what it might mean for the space as a whole?
Well, I mean, if these two clowns can run a sidechain, it must be that easy.
With that, honestly, that's what like you. The second you say, you guys can totally do it. I'm like, I launched a token on EOS, and that was the smartest thing I have ever done. So like, maybe.
So Chirp, as you said, has a traditional storage, probably has a database, and then stores data on EOS. It's on EOS.
We're not plugged into any blockchain right now yet at all. We're accessing, like, basically right now, tokens are getting rewarded in specific channels. Like Telos is like, we've got it set up so that any post you do automatically kicks out like 10 Telos per post to the user, that kind of thing. And we've got 6 tokens now.
Kind of like to add Blockbase to that. There is.
Honestly, if you're interested, I would love to have that. So it's kind of like a faucet for tokens to incentivize engagement, right? So that the only way we're interacting with blockchains is to basically post transactions.
So that there is the right mentality to start considering Blockbase on that architecture. Because you're not being like a fundamentalist in the sense that everything has to be on chain. It uses different components there. So the data that you're storing on the current database you use probably SQL to interact with that database.
Sure. I say that I'm not a dev, I am really not a dev. But yeah, like I'll have our team watch this and they'll probably be like, yeah or no, I have no idea.
Okay, yeah. So now I understand. So now I can explain it in different ways. So
like I'm literally 7 years old.
To interact with the database, you have to use some form of SQL language. It's to interact with databases. They change a little bit from database to database, but it's like different. I don't know the right word. Doesn't matter. So it's SQL. Now, like if you want to interact with, like for example, on Ethereum, you have to learn Solidity. So that's a whole thing you have to learn. With Blockbase, to interact with Blockbase, you have to use SQL, right? So you've got the database dev. He wants to work with Blockbase. He doesn't need to learn a new programming language. He can use the programming language that was used to develop Chirp, and then a SQL variant from what he uses to communicate with the database, but instead of communicating with the database, he communicates with Blockbase. And the cool thing is, he won't need to learn anything extra. All the information that gets stored there, you can choose, like fine-tune what you want encrypted or not. It's stored on a sidechain. The cost is very little. You can provide the sidechain yourselves, but that gets a little centralized. So probably want to use the public network for that too, or at least part of the public network. You can choose, like you spin up a sidechain and you say, I want 3 providers for this sidechain, and I will be one of the providers. You could do that too, because you can like reserve seats. So from a development standpoint, interacting with Blockbase or interacting with traditional databases is very, very similar. And we did that on purpose. So the developers don't need to learn a new language. And it's got encryption built on top. And you can query data very fast. And you've got proof of everything that happened on Chirp. So that's a possible way to have a history of everything that happened on Chirp, so people can say, hey, I should have received these tokens, but you deleted my post from the database and I didn't receive it. You've got proof of it. So here's what you did at that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's one of the reasons why we're staying super nimble as far as being centralized, unapologetically. But I can totally envision a future down the road where, I was gonna say when Chirp scales, having a situation like that would be really, really good. And again, like having the cred behind it for people that old school people that are know what's going on with blockchain. And again, hopefully, to your point about adoption, hopefully we're going to get to the point where people will want that as a just normal normies out there in the world are like, you guys aren't on blockchain, like how could we trust any of this, right? Like that could totally be the way things look like in 5 or 6 years maybe. That might be a little bit optimistic, but yeah, so thank you. That I feel like I understand that a lot more now.
Nice.
It's funny when you sorry, it's funny when people like you say things like that, like normies out there in the world say like, how can we trust that any of this is decentralized? That's the world that we live in. People don't trust things that aren't centralized right now. This is the crazy world that we live in, right? Like we haven't made that massive move to like people trust things that are verifiable, right?
Well, that's an epistemological problem, right? Like especially these days. the things that people think that they know out in the world, the way that we did that before as a species is we would basically lift people up as authority figures, whether it's scientific experts or governmental experts, whatever, bunny ears around all that stuff
until they're 95 years old. Anyway,
but there was a gate. But I think this is a really interesting topic because we think about this at Chirp quite a bit, right? Like the local newspapers as an example, like the editor got to decide what was going to be on and what wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. So, if you were, as a soft, gentle little example, going to try and push a narrative that voter fraud was a big, huge deal, that editor would go and see, well, are the court cases doing very good? And he would find out that they're 1 for 51 and they're getting laughed out of every court, including the Supreme Court. So that editor would be like, I'm not fucking running this because it's garbage. But now, in this decentralized media that we're in right now, that's all broken. You could say whatever dumb shit you want to say, and there is no trust in that, and there shouldn't be. So decentralizing it isn't necessarily going to solve that problem, right? Because you still have the epistemological problem of what do you know and why do you think that that's true? And so, but I mean, like, if you're in a financial database, just having a ledger that makes sense, that is full of integrity and provable integrity, you can follow those numbers very specifically backwards on the blockchain and realize, okay, this was the interaction that caused all of this stuff, right? Yeah. I would love to see that I can't wait for somebody genius to figure out how to create a situation where information in the real world is, as full of integrity as it is on the blockchain. But I don't know how you do that. I'd
love to see when banks print money. I mean, I guess they tell us that they're printing money and we're kind of okay with it, but it'd be really cool to see if, like, it'd be really cool to see them print money. I don't know. I'm just saying,
What do you guys think about the fact that, like, in the same week that they suggest that Libra is going to be coming on board, a bipartisan doesn't happen anymore in the U.S. government, bipartisan group of legislators are talking about breaking Facebook up. Like, that happened in the same, like, I think 10-day space.
You're talking about something a little bit old, right?
No. They announced that within the last couple weeks, but I think in the last week that, like, a weird, like, shaved down version of Libra is, like, has to go ahead and they're going to go.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so they changed it to DM or something.
Yeah.
They changed it to
DM now.
Company. They changed DM.
What does that mean? Sorry, what is DM?
It's from Libra to DM, and they were going to try.
They just changed the name. No, this isn't Libra. This is DM. Okay.
And apparently the Libra logo was, like, contentious because they stole it from somebody. So when they changed the name to DM, they, like, DIEM, like, I'm guessing it means like carpe diem, like seize the day.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It just means day.
Yeah, day. But when they changed it from Libra, because Libra had like 3 squiggles, and then, like, DM had like 1 squiggle, and there was another company that they basically stole their logo from. So, like, it's kind of like Facebook's really good at stealing logos from other companies. That's all I really know about.
Like, yeah, the bipartisan push to have them broken up and turned into a utility is very real. At the same time that they're like, well, instead of banks printing money, why don't Facebook do it? Right? Like, okay,
not wrong. Yeah, I mean, I that's the thing with, like, things like blockchain for me personally. Like, it's difficult to say, but, like, I would really like to see, like, all news and all media put on the blockchain. Like, it should be put on there. Like, we promise our viewers that we won't talk about politics on the show because Corey has a whole morning show that he does that every single day, right? But and you should check it out. It's really heated and really fun. But but, like, here's the thing, right? Like, imagine what a new world it would be if you could just, like, not delete tweets. Because that's what you can do, right? You can delete them. You can delete these posts. Like, they're never really gone, but you can bury them from the public view. So, I mean, let's put every politician's social media tweets on Blockbase.
On blockchain.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
There's I mean, and we're not thinking about this at Chirp yet, but I think about it all the time. Like, what does this look like down the road, right? And I am very, very interested in the way that works. One of the stories that I heard this week, there's a group of 1,300 websites that look like tiny little town local newspapers. They're all run by the same company, and they're all pushing propaganda, right? And so, and there's like 25 different sort of employed journalists, right? 95% of them are in the Philippines, and this is for a United States conglomerate or whatever, and they're just pushing, all of this crazy stories, and like corporations basically pay for play kind of thing or whatever, right? But it's stuff that looks like a normal little downtown, newspaper kind of thing. It's smart work if you can get it, but if this was all on blockchain, then people wouldn't have had to figure this out. You would just know it, right? You'd be able to search back, where did this story come from? And that whole potential network of stuff would all land back, in this one group in a way that, might start to be able to parse this, as opposed to, having a journalist had to do like a 6-month expose on it, and barely anyone read it.
Yeah.
Good talk. All right. Well, I feel like we saved the world this morning. That was good.
What's the Jim Carrey movie where he is living in the bubble? What's it called?
Oh shit!
What would they say in the Truman Show? They would say he always says good morning, good evening, and if I don't see you later, good night. And this is the trio that we have. We have a good morning, we have a good afternoon, and we have a good evening on this show together. I mean, we have saved the world. This is our bubble of world-saving progress.
Awesome,
right? Could you imagine a flat earther watching this and being like, I don't know how this works? Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuck on flat earthers. I mean, they're people too. I know they have feelings. I just don't give a fuck. All right, yeah, Ricardo, thank you so much for coming on. I would love to have you come on again. If you want to throw some BBT at a Blockbase channel on Chirp, I know a guy who can set you up. It's me.
Okay.
Which I think would be really fun. But yeah, I'd love to have you back. Anytime you have any updates on what you're doing, just let us know, and we'll have you back to come and chat about everything. We'll save the world again.
Will do. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for joining us, Ricardo. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Absolutely. Super fun. All right. Well, Jimmy, is there anything else we need to cover before we get the heck out of here?
No, I think we're good. And I don't know. I think we're going to try to do the same thing. We'll throw some news articles together. We'll put them out a couple days earlier. We'll get on here and probably not talk about any of them. And focus.
We'll cover maybe some sort of.
No. But well, I liked. We had lots of interaction in the comment today, and that was quite fun. And I think if we can put the information out there, people can read it. And tell us what they think. We had some really good comments from Seth. We had some really good comments from Manahar. And we got to kind of address and say what I think. And for me, I like doing this. Like, you're a cool guy to talk to. But I kind of want to talk to the community. I want to kind of hear their voices, and I kind of want to see what they're saying, right? And
comments are my favorite, man. And absolutely anybody who comments from here on in, make sure you comment your Chirp thing. I was tipping out people on Chirp the whole time. I do want to mention for Uplift, we're actually going to do a meme competition this weekend with hashtag Uplifters, and it's just going to be super creative, super easy, super fun. Everybody who sends in a submission that has hashtag Uplifters on it is going to get, I think, a community crate at least. And the top 10 memes are going to get some crates donated from my personal stash. And the best 2 are going to get at least a big crate, but I think maybe 2 big crates. I think they're going to get $100 worth of NFTs for winning that. So make sure you're part of the Uplift Art Telegram channel for that. You can also probably find details about that on Chirp as well.
Yeah, and just on the back of that, because we didn't really get a chance to talk about it until now. So just to mention Moon Day, December 25th. We're going to be, Uplift Art's going to be releasing something really cool and something really new. And if you remember back before the Series 1 event, before the I'm Not the Bubble event we drop some community crates to some of our long-term supporters, and those community crates now will be able to get people a really cool thing. Do you kind of want to talk about it? I kind of want you to talk about it because I kind of feel like we can sell it better.
We've been on for an hour and a half, and I've had all the coffee, so I'm going to be running to the bathroom in a second. So we'll just have to, what we should do? We should just come on again over the next couple of days and just do an uplift special thing and just talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll give you the basic rundown very quickly. You burn assets, you get a key, you get to download a new music video. That's it.
Yep.
This is what we're doing. It's fucking awesome.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be community crates or any of the Series 1 crates. Like basically, if you bought a crate or if you had a crate in your wallet, you're going to be able to get that for a key. Not only that, you're going to be able to download the MP3 and then sell the key if you want to somebody else. We don't care how many people have the music. The music wants to be out there. It wants to be free, and we want people to be able to do that. But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna run. So, dude, thank you so much. We're gonna be back here Thursday next week, 9:00 in the morning. If there's anyone you want to see on here with us, please let us know. And of course, hit us up on Twitter and the Telegram and all that stuff.
Always a pleasure from everyone out there in the audience. We hope to see you again next time.
Boom.